Mr. Chairman, thank you to our witnesses today. In preparation for this hearing, I was reflecting back a few years when this very committee had held several hearings on drug prices, and we had panels not totally unlike the one we have today, with representatives from PBMs and representatives from drug companies, and a lot of finger pointing. And I remember a few weeks after those hearings having then Secretary of HHS Alex Azar in front of us, who was formerly associated with a pharmaceutical company as an executive. And I was reading a letter that I got from a constituent. It was a father, two sons, both with juvenile diabetes. And he was talking about just how much the family had to spend each month to keep his sons healthy. And at the end of sharing that letter, I said to Secretary Azar, or asked, what should I tell my constituent about why these costs are so high? And he said, it's complicated. That's what he said. It's complicated. That's not an answer I can provide to my constituents who struggle with this. And there's just a discussion by one of my colleagues about opaqueness and lack of transparency. I find that basically an issue of the industry not being transparent. When I ask questions like, help me follow the dollars, if you double the price of a drug, help me figure out who's pocketing that extra price. And I get, it's complicated as an answer. If we're going to make good policy, we have to have more transparency. And it's why I'm glad this committee is working on measures to achieve that. But one thing I can say when we look at people versus profits is greed is not complicated. Prescription drug manufacturers tell us they invest significant resources in research and development. PBMs tell us they invest significant resources in making drugs more affordable and accessible to patients. But both industries are also working overtime for profits and self-enrichment. Mr. Ricks, yes or no, did Eli Lilly conduct $1.5 billion in stock buybacks in the year 2022?
I believe that's approximately the number.
Mr. Joyner, yes or no, did CVS Health conduct $3.5 billion in stock buybacks in 2022?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
If I had the consolidated statement or consolidated financial statements in front of me that indicated such, would you agree that that's the figure?
I would.
Right. Dr. Kotzner, yes or no, did Express Scripts parent company Cigna conduct $7.6 billion in stock buybacks in 2022?
I believe that that's accurate, Senator. Yes.
Ms. Cianfrocco, yes or no, did United Healthcare, which owns Optum Rx, conduct $7 billion in stock buybacks in the year 2022?
Yes, that's about correct for United Health Group.
Mr. Jorgensen, yes or no, did Novo Nordisk conduct 24 billion in Danish krona, worth roughly $3.6 billion worth of stock buybacks in 2022?
I believe that's approximately correct. We have a majority ownership in the Novo Nordisk Foundation, who gets the money and award money back to society for social and scientific purposes.
And Mr. Hudson, yes or no, did Sanofi conduct 497 million euro of stock buybacks in 2022, or roughly equivalent to $544 million US dollars.
That's correct, Senator.
Thank you. We are taking, Mr. Chair, some steps in the right direction, Mr. Ranking Member, in the legislation that we will be working on tomorrow in this committee. And I am hopeful that we are able to specifically tackle insulin prices later this year. But we can't ignore the business practices of the companies that have come before us today. Part of how we tackle drug prices relates to that need to get transparency and that need to take on the aspect of greed.
Thank you very much, Senator Baldwin. Senator Cassidy.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take my questions now. I agree with some of what my colleague, Senator Paul, said regarding the adverse, the kind of paradoxical effect of decreasing rebates, but I differ with them on spread pricing. Now, Mr. Constner, looking at your testimony, I noticed that you were not as, kind of hesitated when he asked if it's cheaper to do spread pricing versus a fee.